Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final speaker series of the night. Thank you for joining. Just some things before we get started here. Because it is the end of the school year, we are going to have elections pretty soon. And by pretty soon, I mean we will be posting them sometime this week, earlier on this week. But first, I wanted to introduce the nominees for this upcoming year and who's going to be running for what field, what role. Just to put some things into perspective, we do have execs leaving. We also have execs graduating. So this is an opportunity for some of our junior execs to step up and take on some of the roles, as well as open up positions for juniors to potentially join. So let's get started here. Just gonna add my stream. Perfect. Okay, so the 2023 election nominees. Let's just get started here. So for president, we have Dan, our current VP, running for president. We have one of our juniors running for VP, FAM. We have another one of our juniors, VP Finance, Artemi running for VP Finance. We have Kimmy, whom you've seen run the speaker series and host most of them, running for VP Ops. We have Mariana remaining as VP Communications. We have Oric, one of our juniors, running for Secretary. We have Ned remaining in his role as VP Tech. We have Christina running for our other VP Tech position. And lastly, we have Amna running for our final VP Tech position. So how to vote information will be posted soon. So like last year, if you've been pretty active in the club, you will have the opportunity to vote yay or nay to the people running for each position. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here. Okay, so now that that's done, we'll also put the announcements up on Discord sometime after this speaker series. I will now pass it off to Kimmy to get us started.
Awesome. Hey everyone, my name is Kimmy. I am part of the executive team here at the University of Calgary's Information Security Club. Thank you very much, Yasmin, for that short presentation. Really quickly before we get started, guys, we have our attendance sheet for you guys to fill out. It is super important for you to fill out this sheet as, like you guys said, or like Yasmin said, it's to keep track of who's attending our events and give you guys the opportunity to vote in our general meeting for our exec team. So just take a few moments to look at that, and we will get started with the speaker series event. Okay. Once you're done finishing that, we will have the links in the chat for you guys to fill out. I'm going to get started with the speaker series. Okay, sweet. So today we are joined by our special guest, Dr. Vincent Chiew. If you haven't had the opportunity to learn about him, Vincent has been a certified security expert and advisor for over a decade in academic institutions and several professional associations. Vincent is also a founder of Axie Cognisolve, which I will link here in the chat for your guys' reference. Axie Cognisolve is an ISC official training provider bootcamp to help prepare and educate you in the professional industry of cybersecurity. Vincent is also an ISC official trainer for ISC certificates such as CISSP and CSSLP. He also teaches official Computer Technology Industry Association courses such as Security Plus and Network Plus. Please keep in mind that we will be having a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. And without further ado, please welcome Dr. Vincent Chiew.
All right, thank you. So let me try sharing my screen, and I cannot see it. Give me a second here. Let me move the screen to the side. Okay, I do have. Welcome. So, welcome to the wonderful of cybersecurity profession. So, I'm going to show you some of the environment and also expose you to the different area that you can practice, and hopefully that will open up all the possibility to you to see some of the places. Most of these places I've been to and I've worked in, so I'd like to share with you so that you can decide. So as you can see, you can take a journey during the daytime, or you can actually go to the dark web during the night. So you pick the route that you want to. Now, if you have any question, feel free to ask me, and I'll be more than happy to answer anything you have. Okay, any question at all. Well, if it's not too sensitive, I'm more than happy to answer any question that you have. Okay. So I do have this Slido thing only when let's say you happen to type in your name. If you want to ask something anonymous, you can try this, and this one I will monitor from the perspective of from anonymous perspective. So if you have any question, you do want people to know your name because you already put it into the name in the comment side in the StreamYard. So you can use this. So I just want to make sure that okay, I just wonder if I can tie this in there. No, cannot. Okay, so moving on. So a quick disclaimer. So this is a personal journey of the storyteller. That's me. So I'm gonna add some fun facts and so on because nobody wants to listen to a lot of things that's very boring. And if there's anything, if anything I say that's too technical, let me know. That's not the man. So I may throw in a couple of technical stuff just because if that area or that concept is technical, I will throw it in. And then there's a bit of exaggeration just to make it more exciting. And sometimes it's a lot more than exaggeration in real life, but I will not exaggerate too much just in case you guys are gonna have too much fun and take over my job. I'm just kidding. There's a dash of white lies to protect the innocent. That's the thing, and it's a very much Canadian focus. If you have international uh, question, let me know. I'll be more than happy to answer them. But the focus here is more for my students who are in vocational school, colleges, and universities. So I teach at all different level. I also teach at the uh, international student, adults. I want to train as many security professional as possible because I get, say, people from the government and other places that keep telling me, Vincent, we cannot hire enough security people, qualified security people. In certain areas, not because we cannot find the people, but they don't know they exist, right? Sometimes the terminology for the job role is different. It's not the common one, but you'll be surprised how many of you are actually qualified to do the job. All right. So from technician all the way to whatever degree you have, doesn't really matter, or certificate, you can do the job. It's just that you have to know that they exist. And a lot of these places I will talk about, even from the military to the industrial, which I'm going to cover a little bit, you'll find a lot of people from entry level or from getting a certificate all the way to degrees. We all work harmoniously in the area, so it's really really nice, contributing to knowledge. We learn from each other. We all bring different mindset, different values, different knowledge to the tables, and solve really exciting and a bit complex problem, but challenging problems. Okay, so feel free to ask any of those kind of questions. I'll be more than happy to help you out. So okay, next. So today, as I present this, I want to present it in the form of like a professional, right? So one of the very important things you always try to practice what you preach. I never forget a professional once told me that, Vincent, once you become a professional, you should always try to act like one. I try. Sometimes I fail, but and and so one of the things you should always do in the industry here, so you must acknowledge the land acknowledgement. For example, I would like to acknowledge the land that we learn and gain wisdom. We reside on Treaty 7 territory, and that Calgary is the home of the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. So we should never forget everything that we learn, the knowledge, the wisdom that we gain here tonight actually is on the, uh, on the land of Treaty 7 and the Métis Nation. All right, so never forget that. As a professional, always do that. And again, we are focused here. So in the industry, depending on which industry you go, a couple of things we always do. Land acknowledgement. And the next one is safety. All right, safety and security. We always talk about that, especially when you have more than two people, three or more. We always do this. So I'm going to show you a couple of safety moments so that you can see some of the differences, right? So this is more on IT. So I'm going to show you this. Most of you know about this. So whenever when you're on a phone, tablet, or computer, you try to they say reduce the number of time to ask in, so you want to stay in, like your phone. Yeah, these a lot of people do that. Don't get me wrong, I do that too. But now I just noticed a lot of people are getting compromised their account because uh, the bad people will somehow get you to click a link, and what they do, they steal your authenticated session token. Basically, whenever you go to a website, the website will store something on your computer that say that, hey, Vincent already got permission to go in. Just let him in, right? So what happened is the threat actor, the bad people, come and steal all everything that belongs to the your browser, right? So anything you have opened up that you never log out, like your Google Mail, your I don't know, photos area. Hopefully, your banking will time out. So those things will time out. They will steal all of that, and then they can get in. So once they get this token, as you know, those of you who are into hacking and all that kind of stuff, sorry, not hacking, penetration tester, that you notice that they can just go in. So things like strong password, multi-factor just doesn't work anymore, right? They just bypass. Actually, we used to do this kind of tricks long time ago. I remember about 35 years ago, we used to do this as a prank, right? Now people use the prank, what we used to call it a prank in those days. Now they use it to hack account. So just remember that every month or something like that, just log out of everything or shut all your browser down and reopen everything again. Not only that, refresh. Sometimes the industry call it rejuvenate your system. So that way you can log in again. If someone steal the authenticated session, they still will not be able to get in. Okay. So this is very common in the world of IT, enterprise side of things. We always, every time we go to a meeting, we try to learn something new, right? And then I'm going to show you something. This is something from the industrial. So I know I don't have the sound system. Let me see where's my mouse. Okay. So this, I show you this. This is an industrial safety moment. Oh, is this crashing? Yeah, maybe it did crash. I clicked too many things. Just bear with me for a second. I left it on for too long. See, that's why garbage collection on computer are very very useful things. So actually, I also got a few hundreds browser tab on. Okay, just let's see whether I can let you watch this video. This is a higher risk thing that I'm going to do in this presentation today. I can see this is about 2007. Apparently, it came out. I think, although it was shown here, I'm aware that it was out a little bit longer than that. So as you can see, this is more industrial. So technically, this is also cybersecurity, right? So how do you this is I think over 10 years, about 10 years ago, around there, and so this was shown, and basically showing that what they try is that they take someone who know a bit about computer and they educate them a little bit on the industrial area, and this person is able to go inside the system and almost like a so-called man in the middle attack, where it's in the middle. So on one hand, this person is able to tell the operator, people who run the power grid, say everything is fine. They show a whole bunch of green color on the screen. While on the other hand, this person caused the generator to blow up, right? So this is what happened. So depending on where this particular location is, you could potentially black out all of Alberta, or even Western Alberta, or even Western Alberta plus some Northwest US. Okay, so if you are not too sure about the national grid, yes, the grid actually does connect all the way from Alberta to California. So if the bad people know what they're doing, they potentially can black us all out, right? So just to let you know. So that is why this is the area is critical. That's why a lot of people, and this is the area that why this is one of those areas that why Canada consolidate all their cybersecurity into an agency called Cybersecurity Center for Canada, or Canadian Cybersecurity Center. So that is one of the reasons. So now, if you are not familiar, as you can see here, this talk about Idaho National Lab. There's a few places. So this is one of those places. Let's say if you have a money and you want to go on vacation one day and you're not sure where to go, check out National Idaho Lab. So this is where a lot of people from all over the world will go there, and they will, okay, they don't pay for anything, okay? This Idaho INL, we call it. They don't pay for anything. So you go there, you on your own dime, but you can go there and participate, and you can watch all the people like vendors, consultants who trying to show off their skill, show off their product, and they will highlight it there. So, and around there too, around INL, they also have like small city where they test out a whole bunch of stuff like drones, telecommunication hacking and stuff like that. So sometimes they do have workshop. You want to do capture the flag, you want to learn. So you can come here. So this is basically some of the world class hacker, not hacker, like pen tester, will come and test their skills, and they also have training for you. Not officially, but they do have some if you manage to get on it. So this is a great place to go to check out all the latest and greatest. They don't pay, so it's more like a lot of people. I'm not saying go show off, but they do go there and demonstrate their stuff. So this is one of the places, INL, Idaho National Lab. Just go search it up. It's good. There's other stuff like Sandia and other area too, but this is one of them that are pretty good. You can go there and check it out, and go to their website too. There's also another place. So some of you now, if you want, like I remember, this whole presentation is talk about possibility out there, jobs and so on. Now, at this level, a certain level within the government, at the public safety and yeah, normally it's the public safety level. So that's aligning with more like the Department of Homeland Security. One, I mentioned that because that's a level, sometimes they do have funding. So some of you who are into security, into more high-end research or whatever, you can actually contact the public safety and things like that. There might be some funding sometime in the US. You can actually get it in Canada through the public safety because they kind of join program. The reason I know that because that's what they told me. And if you do research here, you can also, let's say this could be one of your career, right? You want to do research into this area, you can actually do that, right? Uh, or you can participate. There are also project for people who don't do research. So some of this area you can look it up. They change over time. So when you graduate, here's another opportunity that you can go into, right? In security. So it's called the Aurora test. So then this is my moment, right? So this is a funny moment. So this is what my friend thinks I do, sleep on the job. A lot of time people don't know what I do. And even after this presentation, most people still would not know what I do. This is what my mom thinks I do, the top person, spy, whatever. And what society thinks I do, hacking, it's like a spy. I think that's James Bond, I'm not sure. Carrying a gun, no, I don't carry a gun. Then what my boss think I do, just sit around doing nothing, counting pencil down here, monitoring screen. No, I don't do that anymore. And this is what I think I do. And this is not too far off, okay? So sometimes when I get into position, I like to become a technology advisor. I like to become, it takes long time, okay? It's not something that happened overnight. So after you do a lot of contribution to a lot of places, uh, like professional association for the government and stuff, they will ask you for help or things like that, and then they will have to give you paper. You submit basically your resume, or more technically your curriculum vitae and your experience, all that. And if they think you're good enough, they will give you a piece of paper that recognize you as an expert officially, because then you can go and represent Canada. You can speak on behalf of Canada or speak behalf of your professional association in court cases, things like that. So they will give you paper to officially recognize you. Even University of Calgary too, they do have places where they used to have database called the expert database. If you graduate with a master or PhD in other area, you can put your name in there, so that way you'll be an expert in those areas. They actually keep an expert database. I think now they call it media contact and so on. So you can do that. So when you do that role, I've been in some of this role where, because you're advising or you're managing the budget, you give direction on where the money gets spent, like portfolio manager and so on. You get to play. I'm not kidding you. I used to that was like about 18, 20 years ago. And that's what I do. I buy stuff like this. I buy virtual reality, heads up display technology. I buy the low end military because high end military is too expensive. I buy the low end stuff. I get to play stuff like this that people think is fiction today. They think it's fiction or it's coming to reality. It's actually reality long time ago. Okay. Yeah, I buy a computer that can play movie underwater. Yeah, so those was like almost 18 years ago. So imagine that. That's what I was playing, playing with computer that is fit on the palm of your hand, full blown Windows. Okay, so imagine that, right? So I'm not kidding. So these are real things that I do. So I'm gonna show you. So these are more in the area of industrial and military. So if you think that, wow, if Vincent is playing with this kind of technology like almost 20 years ago, we're only seeing it now on the IT side. Maybe that's where I want to work. I get to play with the latest and greatest stuff, right? And dangerous. But in reality, I tell you right now, these days, what I really do, and I have to do a lot of paperwork. Okay, you can hack all you want, do pen testing all you want, but people will pay for the report. Okay, so it doesn't matter how technically good you are, you have to do that report, paperwork. In addition to paperwork, you may also have to do a lot of reading contract. So sometimes I work for company, you have to read contracts. So security, even I do risk assessment as part of pen testing, say a website. Let's say you get a third party, you do a scan, you do a pen test, a website. You also have to read their record. You have to read their contract. You have to read their privacy policy, data management policy. So you have to read all of that. So security professional is not only just do testing the website. Can I pen test it? Can I penetrate it? But you have to read all that, because a lot of things you do legally, but within legally, it may not be acceptable by Canada. It may not be accepted by your company, and it may not even be accepted by maybe your ethics, right? So, so that's the reality out there when you go to work. Maybe as your first job, you may not get to do a lot of this, but eventually you will become professional, and these are the things that professional security do. All right. I hate to say this, it's a lot of paperwork too. Can you stay technical? People always ask me that. I say yes. you're still able to do that. Now, majority of company, you stay technical, you get to a level where you have to switch to management to go higher in a company. Most company are structured that way, but there are small area within certain company, very few company where they have a whole technical branch where you can actually from entry level all the way to vice president, chief scientist, chief hacking. One of my friend, his title is chief hacking officer. Okay, chief CHO. So can you do that? Yes, you can. So there are company like that, but it's few, much fewer than the one that you had to transition from technical to management. So that's what the industry has a lot. So okay, so just a bit about myself. I'm not going to go through all the history, just the one that related to security and to the present day. So for over 30 years, I love public safety. I joined a lot of, I was advisor for the Canadian cyber security. Anything to do with cyber security from physical, not much, too much physical. I didn't do that when it attached to information side, information security. So we protect everything. So I'll tell you right now, the most important sector we're trying to protect is water, because water is the only one that uh, almost everyone in the civilization require water. So only North America has a bit of an exception because we rely so much on technology that power is the most critical sector that we need. Without power, we cannot pump will not run. That means gas will not be pumped and travel, and water will not get to where they should be. So North America, once you destroy the power, we are suffering. But the rest of the world, you destroy the water. Let's say water get contaminated, you become really critical. So I do a lot of this kind of work over the last 30 years. For example, I protected the city of Calgary water. So I was the first one to protect the water system that you enjoy. I helped increase the availability for the ICU in Calgary. That's like 30 years ago. Yeah, so I protect Calgary, and I did the security engineering for the critical infrastructure, the power that comes down the line all the way from, I think, Edmonton. So I protected that. So there's two lines coming down. I protect the critical infrastructure. The other one, even the vendor cannot protect. And so we engineered the solution and then we give it to the vendor. The vendor protects it. Now, power, water, the two most critical sectors in Alberta. So I'm just happy that I'm able and also ICU to contribute to that. So and I also work for the public too. I also developed the security for the pandemic plan. At that time, the avian flu, that was a long time, plus flooding. Because when you have a disaster, you will have to be able to operate your critical infrastructure, your system, control, IT, and all that remotely. Okay, so and how you're going to be able to let people access remotely when everything like something like all hell break loose? How are you going to still able to control society from that perspective? So security play a big role to ensuring public safety. So these days, I just do a lot of free security presentation like this one because I just want to share, pass it on to the next generation. Hopefully, then I'll be able to retire in a nice and safe world called Calgary. So, and a lot of my students over the years cannot. I remember those days when I graduate, I try to get my destination. I cannot because most company will not accept if you don't have more than certain amount of student, they cannot run because they have a big company. So I decided to help my student, all my student, plus all the new immigrant. For over 20 years, I helped new immigrant to Canada, and those people want to change their career who are out of a job. So I partner up with a lot of these professional associations so I can provide them cost-effective and timely training. So even if one person wants to get trained because they need a job, I do know a lot of some of us adult, you need to feed your family and so on. You cannot wait until a certain time. So I want to help the new immigrants, my students, my learners, what they call it, and also people who want to change their career because maybe they read the date end or they got laid off. They want to change their career for the better. So this is my passion, okay, for my learners. So that said, here, let me give you some quick low-hanging fruit. If you want to graduate, when you graduate, you must keep in mind that you're going to graduate with a whole bunch of current situation is as you heard in the industry, there's a whole bunch of people are getting laid off, a few, maybe possibly 100,000, you know, their company, they're still laying off people, okay, although it's not quite on the radar because it doesn't hit a critical point. And also a whole bunch of students are graduating. So you look around this side, you see your classmates. So you guys going to be potentially competing for the same job. So how do you make yourself stand out? Couple of things right now. So if you search the internet for ISC2 space CC, that is cybersecurity certified. So this is one of the entry level destination that you can get. If you put it on your resume, ISC Square is quite is known globally and especially in the States, right? There's a lot of security job in the States. The requirement is a bit more stringent, but there's a lot more. It's a lot looser, not as tight as Canada. So a lot of people ask me, Vincent, we need to get you to go down and do some security work. I cannot do that for my reason, not because I don't like to. I love to. I used to work in the States a lot, so I don't do it this day for family reason and other reason. But those of you who want, there's a lot of job right now in the States. Uh, if you get this, at least it looks good on your resume. You can get in. And then you see, I stay high school. That means that if you have kids, you have nephew, nieces, or brother, sister who are in high school, who are want to get an advantage over others, get this. Right now, the exam is free. Okay, the exam is free and the materials are free. So you cannot get any better deal than that. The annual fee is $20. Okay, so this is not for me. I'm telling you, it's for you. I'm not getting anything out of this. Okay, this is for you. I want Calgarian to be the leaders in this because when I did the presentation to RCMP head office, they want me to start a center of excellence here in Western Canada. So it's just timely that this is the kind of time that I think is good. So try. This is a free one, and also U of C, University of Calgary. We have these are I believe they're all online. So there's also a Microsoft Azure security called, you could search for ucalgary.ca. You can search for ICT 907, the course. The last time I checked this morning, there's 2 courses still has room. And again, this is a free. Microsoft invested millions of dollars into continuing education at University of Calgary to provide free training. So they got 3 things. They got the foundation Azure. It's best to get that, but that course is full. Okay, hopefully it's not a prerequisite for you to get security. So this is a free training. You can get a free certificate, exam voucher. Get it now. It's free while you still do it. Having these 2 on your resume, that tells me you know certain things in security. Okay, one is industry. The other one is vendor, and this is a good vendor because a lot of company right now, especially those with custom design, those of you who are computer scientists, computer programmer, this is great to know because this is the platform that company goes to and they want to be secure. So it's good for you to look really good on your resume. Okay, there's another one called Microsoft Azure AI, right? If you guys know Microsoft Azure architecture, at one point, maybe about 8 years ago, I remember indirectly working with Microsoft, connecting a lot of industrial. When I mentioned the word industrial stuff, connect industrial stuff to the Microsoft IoT buffer in the Azure. And then from there, it just next to it is Microsoft Cortana Business Intelligence, all the AI, machine learning stuff. So they got 3 courses. I did not check the AI one, but maybe it's still opening. So you guys can do that. So when you talk about, as you know, lately a lot of talks in security about things like GPT-4, ChatGPT-3, and all that. So we need a whole new skill set of cybersecurity professional, people who knows the AI, people who know ML, people who knows the ethics, people who know how to control, people who knows confidentiality, the privacy of this type of system. Like right now, when it first came out, within less than 3 days, someone already asked the system, GPT-3, and to write malicious code, right? And a few other stuff too. So that was the thing. So how do we prevent? Why don't we just? It's just like having a 3D printer. They print out 3D guns. We can stop that. We can confiscate the file. But how do you do with GP3, right? There's only one brain there, one model. How do you shut it down? You shut it down, you shut down everything. How do you shut down part of a brain? So this is where secure part of a brain. So this is where you guys are the future security professional. This will be a great place for you guys to learn all this stuff, especially when it's free. Okay, there's nothing to do with me. More for your future, right? So think about it. Right now it's free. Exam is free. Might as well take advantage of it. So I view the world as there's an academia and industry. So your journey can take either one. I always straddle between both. Okay, I always put one feet in academia, one industry. Why? One, I want to know what's actually happening in the real world. The other one, academia, is more focused on the body of knowledge. Okay, So both sides are equally good. I like both sides. That's why I always straddle both. That could be my issue. I keep straddling both. I did not go to one or the other. I'm not stuck here. This is by choice. Okay. Hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll see why I like both. Okay. I love to share my knowledge with people, academia. Let me just go to the academia side first. Industry has a lot more stuff to talk about. But I'm probably will not. I will not cover everything. I have to rely on you to ask the question if you have something. So now, when you go to academia side, it's research and teaching. Okay, it's not just university. A couple of points I want to highlight. So you can also do research. You can become a research scientist in industry. You can work for vendor. There's so many of them out there, and you can work for them. So you can do research either way. So you can either work for one or the other. You can do a partnership. So I used to do partnership, right? So I can do the role. I've been in the role of researcher. I've been in the role of what's the other one? Yeah, researcher. You'll see. I also the researcher in the industry. I also a partner, the one who handle the technology relationship management. The only thing I'm not done in this particular area is representing the government. So there's also government that give you funding, tax. You can do research. They got research incentive and all that, so you can get money, right, to do the research. If you build a good business case, you can actually do that. I did sponsor two. At that I think a few years ago, just before the pandemic, I sponsored two security capstone project, and one of them was doing a industrial firewall, and the other one is just SCADA system, control system. And then just so happened, one of another student, the father is in the Department of Defense, and then happened to walk by my student display, right? So wow, I never know people actually do this stuff here, right? Doing industrial firewall and asking students to build, because this kind of thing you don't find off the shelf easily, right? And here I'm teaching the student how to do it. So right away he asked, okay, who's the sponsor and all that. So I tell you right now, even DoD, Department of Defense, are interested in this area because it's hard to find people. And first of all, most people don't even know enough to talk about it, right? So keep that in mind. If you want, you can always do that. Contribution to knowledge and bottom line. So that's why I like to do. The one is just knowledge. The other one is, yeah, there's money involved. Don't get me wrong. So when you go to industry, they do that. And also teaching. You can do full-time, part-time, up to you. I've never done full-time. I always love full-time in the industry. I always do part-time in the academia. My only full-time is my first 4 years studying for my first degree, and that's it. I've been full-time. I have not left the university. I love it so much. Yeah, I come back again. And it's good for professional development. You will know what I mean when you become a professional. You may have to pay dues. You have to do professional development. Now, there's two kinds. You can do the professional development part where you just do hours, or you can become a technical where you can get certification in vendors or in something generic technical side of things. Like Security Plus or vendors like what I just showed you, Azure stuff. So every few years you may have to write an exam again. So those are the one. There's the one that write the exam and the one that just go for training, webinars and so on. So yes, I spent about 10 years going all over the world, to travel, pay for getting so-called, what do you call that? Go conferences, eat very well, learn a lot. But and then I got tired of traveling, so I start to spend more time doing this at the academia and getting paid and learn. Another way, this is one way for me to keep track. Now, you also learn, it's up to you. Why am I telling you all this now? Because you got to plan ahead. So when I was in school, no one told me this, right? So I'm telling you now, you can decide if this is what you want to do. So there will be a point where I become I was management. So I'm not allowed to touch technical stuff. You know, as a manager or whatever, you don't go down and start do coding, right? That's not your job anymore. So I'm not allowed to do that as part of my job description. So what I'll do is I'll go to school, I'll teach. Then I get to get my hand, I get fresh. So in executive meeting, then I can tell people, I say, yeah, this one you can do this. And then I get expert who come in say, no, you cannot. And then I will be able to demonstrate to them. They were really shocked. Why would an executive management know how to do hacking and things like that, right? When they tell you, yeah, you go to this library, go to this function call, look at this interface. Yeah, so these are the kind of things. So that's how you keep it fresh on the knowledge. Because trust me, once you get out of school, when you start to you have some money, you start to enjoy, you start to lose that skill set. Okay, unless you got a job that you really want, exactly your dream job, you may lose it. Now, you can also teach to learn, teach and learn at the same time, or you can teach to learn. So a lot of time, this will force me to teach to learn is more difficult, but it's more challenging too. So I learned a lot. So uh, I'm like all of you. At some point, you have to learn how to do hacking, penetration testing. So I just decided to go sign up for a course to teach how to do pen testing, hacking on database, mobile server, website, system, network, and all that. So I just said, let me teach all of them, and that forced me to learn through. So I had to prepare, I had to pick up speed very quickly, and learn. So you can do the same thing. Can you do that right now? Yes, you can. So a lot of students, I advise them, whether you want to eventually go to the industry or become a researcher, you can always volunteer for professor, right? If you don't have money, yeah, but so find a paid job. But if you can afford it, some professor can give you minimum. Sometimes it's better for you to go work for them and you learn this stuff, right? Learn how to do things properly. Why properly and professionally? Because just doing script kiddie, just aimlessly doing this stuff, sometimes it may not be good for the industry and for business. There are ways to do it properly in the business, in the industry. So let's learn the right way and learn the best way. Uh, so that's what we learn. We know that the young generation are very good at technology, but you have to know how to use it properly, use it professionally. Because if you make a mistake, you could take down the whole down the whole infrastructure. You can could potentially have significant impact on society, depending on what your job role is. So there's a lot of roles, there's a lot of jobs in this area here that you can do. I have friends who just love to do hands-on, and they work in the lab. They become a lab technician and they keep setting up lab, and they do all the different virtual environment. They do all the different attacking scenario for people to test it on. They create all the virtual machine to help professor to be able to teach. So this is a really exciting world, and I enjoy that. I always hire my friends who are from the military and stuff, set environment, this kind of environment up, and they really enjoy it, and students really enjoy it, right? To get all the exciting lesson. Now, when we get to the other side, go to the industry side. In my case, there's this enterprise, there's industrial and military. So this journey, I couldn't make up my mind. So I kind of like go round and round and round. Every now and then, I go to enterprise IT, I go to industrial and military space. You notice this picture, although there's a road that leads to different area, but in this particular area, it's a one area, right? It could be the same city, the same town, the same world, right? So you cannot really distinguish one or take one out. You can say, oh, this is my domain. I don't touch you. This is industrial. We don't nothing to do with IT or military. So there's no such thing in the real world. There's one world. Everyone share the same world. So I have always take that perspective. So, and because I've been in all of this, I see how they're all related. Another thing too you have to pay attention to is that there's another layer that's above this, okay? That above the private sector, which is the public, which is specifically like the municipal and then the federal level, okay? Municipal is one level, the provincial and the federal. So I never work at the provincial, I work at the local because that's where I am, and then I work at the federal level where I help with things like high level business continuity, critical infrastructure protection. Uh, so that's an area I'm just going to quickly mention this. Pay close attention. This one you will never get to do if you're at a private level. Working for any big company, you will never get to do it. Okay. So because this level, this is where you work with tri-services, right? Police, fire, EMS. You got something called highly integrated, harmonized, integrated security framework. Most people don't experience that because you don't do all of that stuff. How do you make sure that all industry for the survival of society will function, right? Will be robust and stay the test of time when you get attacked or get compromised intentionally or unintentionally. So that is another level. So I get a chance to do, like, for example, set the pandemic plan for the whole city of Calgary and then integrate that with the provincial level so that you can see whether, and then at the federal level, how do you see the pandemic, say the virus spread. I remember I spent about 2 years working at that level, and for security, we need to know, right? We do all the simulation, the modeling, how virus spread across, how forest fire, how's flooding. So we monitor all of that. We look at the simulation, how that, both at the federal level, and I also did some in the provincial because I did manage to see some private sector people who are really rich. They want to build their own bunker, their own basically command center. I also got a chance to deal with that, but not much. Then I leave for some reason. I'm not going to say what. But then I will, then at the federal level, the government level, if you want to work at that kind of level, you can. Now, I will share a little one thing. At that level, you get to do certain, you have access to certain capability, technology that the private level doesn't have. Okay, so that's all I will say. Okay, unless you can prove to me that you have the need to know those information, I'll tell you. Another thing is that whenever you do presentation, always beware that uh, it's not to show off. Keep in mind, any one of you here, maybe one or more of you, are actually a threat actor, trying to take what I just tell you to compromise other people, right? To harm the society. So always keep that in mind when you give a talk anywhere. Like you could be talking to maybe a group of people there, you're just going to take the opportunity and just shut you down. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to show you some of the environment, some of this aspect in many different form. And you have any question, ask me later. Uh, because it's just too much to squeeze everything in about an hour or so. Okay, this is my perspective. Having worked in all this area for quite a few years, so I can tell you that information security, most of you guys are exposed to that. And there's a whole world industrial security, and then another spectrum, I call it military or space. That are all very different, right? So what I noticed over the last 20 years or so is that the requirements start to creep up, right? Requirements seems to get harder and harder into the military security side, because now you got nation state attack, right? Another country want to attack your critical infrastructure and take it down, whether it's water, fire, telecommunication, your personal information to create another identities to your bank. It can be any of those sectors. I'll show you afterward what are those sectors. So the requirement get more stringent. At the same time, the security controls start going down, right? If you have that kind of level of security requirement stringency, you also need that level of strength of controls, right? Now, some of this control, remember, military in the late early 2000, they start to use a lot of codes, right? They use a lot of commercially off the shelf. Then they ruggedize it, right? So ruggedize rods, ruggedize off the shelf, and then they do a mods after that, militarize off the shelf. So from cods to rods to mods. So they start to do all of that, right? And so as you can see, some of this stuff are actually in information. So I've here lieutenant who I went and talked to one of them in the US, military DOD CIO, told me that sometimes, in the middle of the battle or about to go into a battle, he will run to Best Buy, or he'll, depending on where the shop is, he'll buy some commercially technology. That is why a lot of military stuff use a lot of commercial technology. So sometimes in an emergency, desperate disaster situation, you want to be able to grab technology and plug it in and work, right? So they have that kind of stuff. And then there's also industry that get caught in between both of them. So hopefully you guys can decide. I'm going to show you some of this environment that I've been in. You can decide if this is where you want. If you want, you can always email me, contact me. I'll be more than happy to sit down and chat with you. Hopefully it's in a group, right? Then that way I can share with you the experience, hopefully get more people into this area. And all of this area, I've worked with technologists. I've seen technologists. I worked with some of the really good ones. I have technician working in industrial, technician with just a diploma certificate working in military, industrial security, and information. So you guys can work in any of this area. Okay, there's nothing stopping you. Well, if you're a bad person, that will definitely stop you. If you have a criminal record, that might stop you. But so if you are really, really smart, you have some specialized knowledge, sometimes you can actually speed up some of your so-called clearance, security, even if you are international. Let's say you're an international student, you'll never leave, you don't even have the citizenship. If you have specialized knowledge, some of these people will be interested in you, and magic can happen. That's all I'll say. Okay. So let's take a firewall, for example. You guys know this is an IT Cisco firewall, industrial Husman firewall, and this is a Nova military firewall, right? So these are all firewall. Inside, it could be the same thing, right? But some of them, obviously, the military side could be hardened a little bit more. As you can see that even the hardware is a little bit different. You look at the industrial Hirschman, you say that, hey, look, you still have RJ45 and all that. But yeah, but maybe some of these are more water resistant compared to the one you have at IT Cisco, right? And obviously, you see the Nova military, some of the connector, they're all fully enclosed. You open it up, it may even be waterproof, right? For all I know, right? So as you can see, Sometimes the software, the configuration, it could be a bit different, but it could very much be the same. For example, if you look at the Ethernet port, the number of pin, the wiring for all of this system are the same, right? Nothing special. I'm not saying they cannot customize it, they cannot leverage it. For example, they could use half of it and make it into power over Ethernet. That means they put power into it, into the same network line. So this is very common on CCTV, right? When you guys put security camera around your house, restaurant, shop, businesses, you notice you just have a cable. You don't even have power. The power is actually inside the cable itself, Ethernet cable. So so you see those kind of stuff. You see them here, and sometimes it could be part of business here, right? So you look at this industrial firewall and say, okay, fine, but look at the environment that you stick it in, right? You can see the IT on one side, you can see the industrial. So you got the rack mount, you got the DIN mount. This is called the DIN mount, the one in the industrial side. And you can see some of these that have power. I don't think I picked for any specific brand. No, it didn't tell me what brand. And then you see the military stuff is really cool. Imagine you have a server, right? So on the IT side, you have a really nice control environment, maybe 18 degrees Celsius, no dust, nothing. On the industrial side, maybe a bit dusty. Sometimes we put this stuff in an explosive environment because you have no choice because of the chemical, biological things, particles in the air. Then you have sensor that make sure if there's a spark, you put it out right away so it doesn't blow things up. And you think so some of these have I'm not sure about the brand, but there are brands out there that the anything that connect anything else is all highly fully redundant. So all the way to the chip level, okay, even the circuitry in the every chip are all redundant, okay. So I do mean redundant. So every chip has redundancy inside. When you have two chip, you have really high availability, really high redundancy and availability too. Right? Some of these have, I think, 7 or 8 nines that even stronger than any telecommunication system that IT uses, which the standard is 5 nines, right? You guys work in IT telecom, you know its availability is 5 nines. That's really good. And here, some system are up to 7 or 8 nines. So they're almost like bulletproof. Some of them that you can take a gun and shoot everything until the last component and it's still running. Although very slow, but it's still running. It will not die until you blow it up. So this will be interesting. You want to work in the military, you can have server in there that like Calgary have. I mean, Calgary got one of the so many military stuff like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, General Dynamics. We have a lot of brain power, a lot of system. Whether there's job or not, that's another story, depending on the company's philosophy. But they do have a lot of before I go that. So when you put system into this, imagine you have a server on wheels. A server can go like 30, 40, 60 miles an hour. A server that's in an environment where people are shooting at you, it's moving, you're going to be bouncing around. So if you enjoy things like that, by all means, do it, right? So yeah, so this is the military environment. So you can pick and choose which one you want. Now, a lot of the military stuff, if you say I don't really like that, but keep in mind, remember the continuum I talked to you about. IT now also has a lot of very stringent requirement because people, what's the best way to go into a system like industrial? Most industrials try to isolate themselves, but sometimes they have no choice. They have to go out to the world, right? So they will go through IT infrastructure. So because they have to go through IT infrastructure, uh, so remember the requirement, so people can hack in. Some of them are nation state attack, depending on the industry. So they need that kind of control. So a lot of this military stuff company, they don't really have money. They cannot have big project right now. Well, maybe because the current state of the world right now, maybe they have more business than usual, but they still need more businesses, right? So what they do now, a lot of them build a lot of industrial strength stuff, right? So military building industrial strength security control and selling it to the IT area, right? So as you can see, there's also that area of movement. So what does that mean? I see a lot of sales job, application space specialist job that this military hiring people who can speak the IT enterprise lingo, right? So that the CIO will buy, CISO will buy those kind of stuff, especially when they don't have that kind of background, they will be able to understand. So they do hire them to sell. So if you're one of those who enjoys traveling, their area of traveling roadshow is not too exciting, but if you are into that, yeah, you can actually work for any of this company here. That some of this industrial actually sell stuff on the IT domain too, right? To go into this area. So they go from in this when you look at this picture, it go from right to left. Cisco about, let me see, when was that? I think that was about 15 years ago. Cisco tried to build something for the industrial, right? Their very first RTU, not even a security device, their very first remote terminal unit, basically a box that helped um, their IT system talk to all the industrial system to connect them together, and it failed. And then they stopped producing it for 2 years. Then slowly they build it up again. Then I have not heard much about it. I kind of lost track. So as you can see, Cisco did actually try to go from left to right, but most of the time it's from right to left. So they do hire people who on the IT side to work on behalf of the industrial and military to sell stuff onto that side. So you can look for that too, right? So there's a lot of opportunity for in this area for you. And so these are some of the environment that you work in, right? So as you can see, IT is really nice. If this is what you're comfortable in, I worked, I think, almost a year. No, I think I worked for a couple of months. I have to because my boss, president, told me, Vincent, go work in the operation room, and it's like 18 degrees Celsius, just to know, just have a feel of how they work. I don't enjoy working in 80 degrees Celsius environment. Um, and I also worked in industrial before too, for many years. So this is what I do. I go out. So my story is that I remember there was one system that kept dying and so on. And every 3 months we had to swap out a brand new computer. So every 3 months we had to put a new computer in. So then later I found out why, because of corrosion, because the environment is highly toxic, and it's just keep corroding all the hardware. So we had to goop it up, and so that the system will not break, so we don't never have to replace it again. So I'm not sure, for all these years they have been swapping a new computer out every 3 months, until I figured out, oh, you're in a really toxic environment, corrosive environment, so we put another set of security things onto the system, and then it will never corrode again. So this is the military style. As you can see, there's not a lot of cable, but they have harnesses. So same thing, same signal that you see in IT, you see industrial, also go flowing through all these harnesses, cable. So this area is the only area that I've been to that trying to I have to use more than 100% of what I know. So it's really challenging, and it doesn't help me either because I'm on a team that's full of chief scientists. I'm not going into detail, but they're all chief scientists. Yeah, you learn a lot of pressure, because these are people top of their field, right? Chief scientists of everything from mechanical, electromagnetic, radio frequency, everything, security, that it just blow my mind. So yeah, if you love that kind of area, like a little bit of stress, but you see wonderful technology and wonderful innovation that you don't see anywhere. So the only thing I don't like, I will want you guys, couple of things is, one, you cannot say too much about what you do there. Two, be careful of clearances. Okay, if you get too high of a clearance, you may not be able to travel to certain places as you please. Okay, if you ever quit or you join this kind of area, because of secret or whatever. So I don't want to know a lot of things because I want to travel. I want to go where I want. So I did not get the clearance as high as I would like to, because I value my freedom of travel. So yeah, some of these things you have to consider. People don't tell me until I go there. They say, "Hey, do you want to have higher clearance? You can do more exciting stuff." And I say, so any restriction, then they tell me, then I say, no, maybe not, but some of you might, right? I really love this diagram, but they took it off the internet. Okay, so luckily I saved a copy of it. So this show you the personal security, like individual, society, and international. I remember, the international standard, I don't remember, like 22,000 ISO standard. I remember I was on a committee on Canadian Standard Council, Standard Council, Canadian SCC, Standard Council of Canada. Yeah. So I was on the committee quite a few years. At that time, I was trying to protect the city of Calgary, and I tried to protect Canada at the same time. So we will talk about this stuff. So believe it or not, at that time it's called public safety, right? Standard we were trying to do, and we'll find out that it's very difficult to quantify safety, but it's a lot easier to quantify security. So instead of saying that public safety, let's say you say I'm hungry. How do you measure hungry? You cannot quantify hungry, starvation, right? But based on how you can secure the food, we can measure that. So the chances of the ability to secure food, that means you is proportion to less hunger you're gonna get, right? Less hungry you're gonna become. So we changed it to societal security. So the name got changed from public safety for that particular standard society. So at that time we called SC22, S222, and now it become ISO 22000 or something like that. I cannot remember now. So the reason I left there is because then all the green energy efficiency come in. I joined that, and then I heard something went wrong with security standard. I left that standard. I went and helped with security again. And there's a great movement there. If I remember, I'll mention it again. Uh, the whole potential, a whole new category of jobs going to open up if we can get that to pass. So as you can see, the talk about personal security, national. This is Canada level and international, right? So I talk about some of this with RCMP and stuff. If you're interested, you can go join RCMP. You can join law enforcement. As long as you're on the law side, enforcement side, it's really nice. You get to do things that private people cannot do, like counter attack, right? We're not supposed to counter attack another nation because it's like someone shoot you and then you cannot just shoot another country, right? Like blow another country up. Same thing, you can do a cyber attack in another country. So it's illegal for us, but it's legal for some of these uh, the law enforcement like CSIS, RCMP, police, whatever, sheriff. So they can do certain things that normal people cannot do. So if you want to do those kind of things, go ahead and do that. I look at some of their forensic lab. They have really nice toys if you really want to go there. I've seen it. I've seen how they do. I talked to them. I worked with them before. So some of these things I want to highlight, they kind of tie into what I'm going to present more. So as you can see here, we have critical infrastructure. So this is the thing that, critical infrastructure, like water, utilities, we'll go into that more. And then we got, so one of the area we talk about, because we talk about physical stuff, so we got a CBRND, right? Chemical, biological, radiation, nuclear, and explosive attack. So that can actually impact critical infrastructure. And then external interface will be cybersecurity. Someone can hack into your area. So those of you who are taking security stuff, this will be really great because you can help protect Canada. So this also this talk about cybersecurity, also terrorism, right? So this talk about the nation state attack now. And that one, you see that in the critical infrastructure sector, there's a lot of things that ties to this. Really, really exciting war. I'll talk about some of the in the different sectors, and maybe you're interested in that. And then here we talk about the you see we talk about Calgary and something more local, more personal. You talk about things like contamination of water, so that's why I protect the water system. Things like disaster, emergency, like the things like health, like the avian flu. Things like that. So this is where I also work in this area. So that's why I help with the ICU. I help the tri services to help protect Calgary for that reason. So all this area requires security, cyber security, right? So to protect all this, because you don't want people to start changing the your electronic health record. Say you have an allergy, they just zero those out. Then all of a sudden, someone inject you with something, you die, right? So those are the kind of things you do. So these are things that CBRNE. So for example, so when you do computer system, right? So when you are in a like industrial, when you have a place that's highly that potentially have uh, dangerous chemical, biological things, particles in the air or something like that. But you have router, you have switches, you have computer, you have server in those environment. Then you ask why you have those environment, because you need to be close proximity. Sometimes the control need certain have something physical requirement constraint that you have to be there. So that is why, right? So IT normally not too much issue because your environment are very clean, but some of this environment you have to worry about. When you have a cable, you have virus that got stuck into one of your between your plug and your cable, or you have a little so-called dye or glue that will react with some of this agent, and then you touch it, you're gonna die, or it could cause you to be sick. So these are all the kind of thing that if you want to know more about cybersecurity plus a few more things, yeah, maybe this is an area that you're interested in, right? So you can go to this area. I have a lot of technician friend and also computer scientists and engineer who are all working in this area. They love it, right? They like to challenge. They don't want to just here's a cable RJ45, Cat5, Cat7, whatever 6E, plug it in. It will. They want to know more. Can this cable actually be cause me harm and things like that? How do I make it even harder, harden it, right? So this is the Canadian critical infrastructure sectors. There's 10 of them. US has 16. They're the same. right? It's just different perspective, right? So we have energy, utilities, finance, food, transportation, government, manufacturing, safety, water, health, ICT. Here's IT. So we know IT. I'm selling to the choir here with IT. So energy, utilities. So utilities. Now, remember I talked about the level that I interface all of this. Yeah, most of you will work in oil and gas. You just focus on oil and gas, right? Some of you who works in so-called banking, you just work in the finance. So when you work in finance, what do you do? Yeah, so when I used to work in those area directly, indirectly, and so on, we look at can someone steal your money? How do you track terrorist funding, right? Some people will try to do money laundering, transferring a large sum of money by breaking them out, getting other people to move the money around like Mew and all that kind of stuff, eventually get into the system, get it out into crypto and all that. So yeah, so finance has a lot of security, believe it or not. There's a lot of AI, a lot of machine learning that try to track, look at transaction, look at the human, look at patterns heuristically. So all these have lots of security, right? As you can see, some they interact. So that is where I'm talking about that level where if you work in one of these industry, you may not look at the interaction. For example, like Katrina, right? When they realize that they put the gas tank, they know that it's going to be flooding. So the flooding going to go quite high. So they put the gas tank maybe on the 10th floor. Then they realize that carrying tank of gas up 10th floor doesn't work, right? Because you're so focused on one sector, like maybe the water, like flooding, you forget about the other area. So when we look at oil and gas, we talk to oil and gas, we talk about, okay, let's protect people by not by make sure that they can monitor, like gas leak detection, bombing, explosion, uh, uh, injection into the control system, cause it to explode and all that, like what you saw in the video. So they got this layer that you work at that level, the tri-services and higher level. So you're trying to figure out how can I keep society. So you know how many of these critical stuff people need to eat, right? Okay, you want to keep the pipeline running, but all those people they look after the pipeline, they need to be healthy. You have to make sure they are healthy, and you make sure their family is healthy. If your family is sick at home, you're not going into work. I can tell you that, right? And then another thing is that you have to eat food, right? So a lot of people when you talk about security, you say, "Oh, look, Vincent, I'm hacking here. Look, I can get in." But when it comes to critical stuff like this, you cannot be hacking for months on ends, right? Let's say in the middle of a war. How are you going to do like pandemic is like 2 years, 3 years, right? You need to be able to get food, you need to be able to eat, you have to keep the lights on and all that stuff. So how do you keep them on? So it's a very complicated system. You have to make sure we already identified just over 100 type of food that just minimum to sustain society. How to get the food to you, we need vehicle. How to get vehicle, you need gas. How do you get gas, you need pump. How do you get the pump running, you need utilities. Now you see how all this integrated. So there's another layer of job. Really interesting. I love this area of my most exciting time is there because you have to know all of this area, right? You think that those days, you think that okay, fine, pandemic, I want to get something, I just use the credit card. But when it comes to disaster, bank, if the power is out, bank is not giving out money. Okay, so part of the strategy is to have a cash on hand because people are willing to take cash because credit card doesn't work, ATM doesn't work, so you need cash. So as you can see, it's a whole different way of thinking in terms of cybersecurity at this level. Now, this is I like that this is from CISA, Gov. I'm not sure whether it's still there or not. This website they're trying to some of these web pages they already told me that I got noticed a couple of months ago that they're gonna decommission some of this website. So I did save this drawing down. I like this drawing because it shows you. If you look at this thing, this secure architecture by the government, this is like between DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and PSC, Public Safety Canada. So this is a very common architecture where if you look at it and say, I'm not sure if this is in the company or not, trust me, if you are oil and gas, utilities, transmission, all the critical infrastructure here, you see health a little bit, ICT also, utilities for sure. Your company, this is what you have in your whole company, right? The only thing is that you may not know. So if you are just purely focused on IT security, you are just limiting your opportunities. Okay. So I'm going to show you. So as you can see, the red color, this is OT, right? They call operation technology. It's just an industry term. I don't know. Personally, I just don't like it. To me, it's one thing, right? This is you ask your executive. Your executive will say, these are all my assets, right? Your executive will never say that group, that group. No. From a president perspective, this is the whole company's asset. So whenever I get called in, I treat them all as one set of asset for the company. But unfortunately, in the industry, there's a bit of headbutting and so on. So you got this OT. These are more like the pipeline, the control system that monitor all the pipe, the utilities, the water, the transmission line, stuff like that. Uh, Renewable energy, hydro and all that kind of stuff. So you have all that. So basically, you see the blue color. That is more like IT. So IT look a bit of this, like this area here in the middle that overlap the red color. This is another DMZ zone, internal DMZ. So how many of you actually work in the internal DMZ? Then you have another set of firewall here that go out in the field. Okay. Then you're gonna say that, oh yeah, Vincent, that's probably external. Yes, it's external, but from an IT perspective, this is the external public DMZ. Now this could be internal too that goes out. I'll tell you why afterward. Okay. So and a lot of this is run by the OT technology security. Whenever you apply for a job, when they say OT technology, OT security, that's what they are referring to. This area is much bigger. We cannot find people to do this. Now, if you are in the IT world, you want to get a good job, this is a good area to go to. So you just have to act as a translator, right? Remember, I showed you the industrial RJ45 Ethernet signal is still internet signal, especially on this end here, from where my cursor is. So these are still very much IT. It just doesn't look and feel like IT, but it's still IT. So you can be this translator. I don't know. They have many different. They have like something called like process coordinator, something called field coordinator or field analyst. Sometimes they call it different names. So it's very hard to figure out what that role is. Different company call it differently. There's no standardization on the name. That's why it's very hard to find this job. But if you can find this job, it's really, really you are pretty well set. You can do a lot of things, manage a lot of things. You basically in and work for this area here, and they're really nice. They take care of you really well. And as you can see, these are all so IT use a lot of ISP, right? Internet service provider. You use telco, Telus, Roger, Bell, and all that stuff. But when you work in the industrial, a lot of this critical stuff they run. I'm not saying they don't use public infrastructure network. A lot of this they own their own network. Okay, so when you see this firewall, is internal firewall that goes out a few hundred, even thousand of miles. Okay, depending on which country you work for, you live in and you work for, and it's all your internal network that goes thousand and thousand of miles. All right, so you see, you own your own asset. You can control everything, right? You don't just say, oh, this is a Thales problem. I just write a service level agreement as part of your, and then let them handle it. But this one, you run everything on your own. So just here an example, this is the utilities. As you can see, what this infrastructure looks like. You're not just having a base tower, having a telecom room, having in different building. As you can see, they have everything from wind farm to solar to building, generator, power plant, transmission, primary line, secondary line. How do you tell the difference? One has 3 lines, one has 2 lines. So it goes to different, and some of this area you see here, I think if it's a high voltage like the one I secure between Calgary, I think it's like a mile wide, mile, 1 mile square, something like that. And the connection, if it's direct current, it's very different. Take more real estate. The command control is more significant, more complex than just analog current and all that. So you have to go to branches, distribution. This is where NMAX, Fortis, Alberta, all coming in. Then here also another picture more on the gas pipeline side where you have a refinery, you have midstream, you have tank farm. These are all critical stuff. Like for example, tank farm. Okay, you think it's just secure, just cyber. Now, if you are truly, it says cyber security is a subset of information security. Okay, the only reason we all stuck to cyber because some places say cyber is the same as information security and even bigger. No, technically it's a subset, but most people think is critical because it's connected to the internet. So the bad people can state attack can attack that, and they can come and blow up your critical infrastructure, right? So that's why people say that. Now, if you are pure information security, you look at that. Just take one of these areas. Let's take the tank farm, right? Do you know that there's tank farm out there? As part of your information security, you're protecting the information security, not just cyber. You monitor like helicopter, right? Up there in Fort McMurray, they monitor some of these tank farm using binoculars, using drones, looking out for drones and looking for airplanes, car. Because what they do, they use thermal energy and scope and things like that to check your tank to see how much gas you have remotely from a distance away. Use satellite to monitor, because knowing how much you have in reserve, they know how much gas to pump your competitors and stuff like that to manipulate the market. Okay, so these are part of things that the threat actor do, trying to get steal information from you without you knowing remotely. So as an information security, that's part of your job to secure this too, right? So it's not using computer. So you can think of it as computer. Sometimes I also try to tie that to a computer system that control the drone that just fly out. Depending on the regulation, some of them, if you don't have license, you have to put a tether, very light tether, so you will not break the law. So it's no longer become a drone because there's a very long wire. Some of them just fly up, and then they just take a picture around and then fly right down, or they just monitor up in the sky to see if anyone cross your airspace. So those are the kind of thing, and you know that you can also actually buy airspace, right? In certain area, even in Calgary, you can actually pay for it. So yeah, so these are the kind of thing that say we talk about command control. Those days it's just command control. Now it's more C4, command control, then computers and communications. So it's a little bit more sophisticated. I do know a lot of power plant actually have intelligence where they can do, because we do have power trading. Sometimes they put intelligence system into the control system. We talk about AI and things like that. They do have that in this area, even way before AI become popular on the IT side. They have that so they can automatically trading power, things like that, in the middle of the night while people are sleeping. So if you want to go to the military, when I work in the military, when they ask me to do telecommunication networking, so this is what we do. We make sure communication can go. So you have battleship, you have satellite, you have airplanes, AWACS, and all that. They all move around. Sometimes the signal disappear because they have to go undercover while they are getting shot at, and things like that, or they fly into too high. Things like that to different atmosphere, signal get bounced and all that. So if you are really into this kind of stuff, telecommunication security, here military is the thing. Now IT side, you have things common. I won't go into too much detail. You have like 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz, maybe a bit of 6 gigahertz. When you go into like 5G, you go into IoT stuff, right? Then you go into security, industrial have all of those plus a few more, plus special frequency that I will not tell you what it is and where it is. So they got special. And when you go to work in the military, there is no limit. Okay, because you want to be able to jam the bad person, threat actor. You don't know what frequency they use. They can use any frequency. You must be able to jam that whatever they are using. If that's the one that they use to communicate, they kill your people, you want to make sure you get rid of that very quickly, disable that, right? So this is a great area to work. You play with toys that you never imagine you're going to be. So then we talk about the CIA. Everyone know about the CIA, but you know about the RAM side of thing, reliability, maintainability, and availability. So there is commonality between those two, right? But on the RAM side, there's a lot more medical formalization, mathematics side. On the CIA, there is you guys, those who learn the security, you guys learn there's more formalization relationship on that side. But they do have mathematics that kind of tie them together. So that's how I view them. They're all one. There's no such thing as, oh yeah, confidentiality in IT. They say that is the most important. RAM is availability. I work in all this area. Depending on the situation, sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. So depending on the context, the operation, the mission of that system, your priority changes, right? So that's why I don't go say, yeah, it must be confidentiality because it's IT. No, I don't think so. So, and then those of you who do programming, you heard about SQL injection, right? So when you talk about RTU, you talk about some of this SCADA system side or control system. So they got DCS, SCADA, PLC, IED, PCS. These are all industrial systems. Just like you have ERP system, you have MES system, like manufacturing, you have enterprise resource planner and all that stuff. On the industrial, they also have their own set of system, and then they have their own set of languages too. These are programming languages. So on the IT side, you talk about SQL injection. These are all the different type of languages. They have IL, instruction list. They have FBD, functional block diagram. They have ST, structured text. This is more like programming. This is, then they have sequential flow component or something like that. Flow chart, I mean. So you have, that's a 61131 standard, and you have L, ladder logic, right? So in this area, we're concerned because they also have the same thing, a very similar stuff to IT. You have SQL injection, library injection, and here you also have page injection, command injection, ladder rung injection. You got so many more type of injection you can go into this system. So if you want to be a true programmer, you want to challenge yourself, I welcome you to this world. You can do all of this. And keep in mind, some of you, when you do computer programming languages in IT, sometimes you look at the memory read, right? You can look at a row major, column major, and all that. You got to know the detail. You also have to know the detail. For example, you take ladder logic. Ladder logic is based on electrical circuitry. So you have to know, though. Now you emulated it into software. Now, is this a row major calculation or is this a column major calculation? So you have to know that too. Or does it simulate as all in one? Every time, everywhere, it just run. So because it's trying to simulate real world electrical flow, so you have to know all that too. So as you can see, this is more complicated. Actually, it's not too bad. I managed to create object-oriented environment. I create object classes, all that. I create the whole ecosystem object-oriented in ladder logic. Can you do that? Yeah. So I've done this like back in over 20 years ago, right? So using this type of languages to create those environments. So it is possible. It's a lot challenging. I do virtualization in this way before virtualization even come on the IT world. We use virtualization here. That's how we virtualize all the instruments, right? And I show you this is a foundation field bar. This is some of the technology I use in Alberta to help secure some of the critical infrastructure. Why? So you're talking about IT, then you have remember we talk about all the picture I show you, secure architecture out in the field, right? So you have all this. You talk about IoT. So this actually, there's a company in Calgary about I think back in 40 years ago. They already use this technology. This is not a new technology. It's been around. It just got more mature later on. So these days, imagine. I know these are sensor, palm, and all that, but and valve. But think of it as IoT, and that's what they call. These days they call it IoT. And each IoT here has a CPU inside, and some of them have redundant CPU. Okay, they have client server, they have like hot and standby. They got redundancy here at the field, right? So that when one of these pump fail, the others instrument will take over, will help compensate the whole process. Okay, so we have this technology out in the field, right? And that so it's not only like IT. When you do a network, you put HA, high availability. You only redundant your routers, switches, hub, and all that stuff. Some computer, some server, but this is out in the field on the IoT level. How many of you have IoT? You have security sensor, you have the motion sensor. Do they actually have computer system inside there that when your front door sensor goes off, your back door computer will take over without a centralized computer system in the cloud or in your home? So we already had that in the industrial for many years. So I did this 20 years ago for the city of Calgary before, and I'm not sure whether it's still there or not. Things may have changed since then. Yeah, so we used to design this stuff, right? So that's why when all of a sudden, let's say you blow up the control center, command center, we are not afraid because we know we have brains out there in the field that actually run all the systems that provide power, provide water, provide gas to the public. So we have to secure all of this. So these are all classified under cybersecurity if you connect it to the internet. Okay. And another thing, like this one here, look at this the demonstration. I think like 2012, 10 years ago. Yeah, 10 years ago when I presented this, when 3D printer was coming out, people were printing so-called um, guns, right? So when it first came out, within a few days, people already 3D printing guns. So when I present this to the engineers, and then I got a couple of police officers in there because I do work with them too before, and so they come in. So when I show them this, I talk about how easy it is to do all of this. Uh, just to give you to think about the mentality of some of this different group. The first thing the police officer told me, look, Vincent, I have the real thing. So he pulled out his handcuff, right? I said, this one here can open any handcuff. So the police said, I have the real thing. And then the engineer said, oh, I know exactly which chemical I can destroy the gun and the key. You will never find a trace of it. So the evidence of the weapon will be disappear. You will just, yeah. So you see the mentality. That is why they say that majority of the terrorists that actually built explosive, they are all engineers, unfortunately. Yeah. So because you need that special knowledge to do this kind of stuff, right? So and then finally, now you know why when I do this kind of stuff, I kind of go round and round in this area because there's no real segregation in all of this, right? And finally, I think this was my last slide. Just tell you that if you have any question that's outside of this, let me know because I can go on forever, right? So fundamentally, cybersecurity, information security, the most important roles, believe it or not, is mathematician, right? Without mathematician, they come out with so-called encryption key, those algorithm and stuff. We don't have a job. Okay. If you trace all the way back, without them, we don't have a job because without those capability, those type of algorithm, there is no information security, no confidentiality, integrity, non-repudiation, all that kind of stuff will not happen. Not because of mathematician. So having a mathematician on your security team is really good. All these have big roles. Okay, I only highlight them red because I was going to speak of something. Initially, I highlight all the important one. Then I realized they're all important. So engineer because of safety, it's a lot. Actually, the law in Alberta actually state that under control, you have to have engineer. That's under the law. Auditor, when you talk about maturity, auditor look at compliance. And maturity, especially in the military, a lot of things are these days a big thing in logistic chain right now. Department of Defense all looking into it in terms of tracking it using blockchain and all that. So auditor, supply chain, logistics, these all play a key role right now, trying to secure hardware, software, having logistic change using blockchain to track all of this now. Linguists, believe it or not, a lot of the fundamental computer science stuff like binary trees, all that kind of stuff are actually created by linguists, right? And you talk about things like the latest stuff like, GPT, all that. If you look fundamentally, those are all based on language modeling, languages approach. These are all like language and language expert. So if not because of them, we don't really have the language in the computing science, right? We have to appreciate the other domain actually that we are standing on their shoulder, right? And then they are making a comeback in the AI. If a lot of places I go work in the AI machine learning world, the head of the department are normally psychologists. Okay, who know about human psyche and human intelligence than the psychologists? That's what they do, right? More talk about the action and so on. I'm not talking about doctor doesn't know the brain. I'm just talking about the action and how people think. So computer scientists play a great role too. Don't get me wrong, a lot of this had to be applied technology. AI ML analysts are a big thing. Oh, the supply chain, they also have new standard now. Those maturity stuff, they have a new set of standard right now for the last few years for the DOD. And now it's actually it's a big deal for all the critical stuff like SpaceX uses them. I'm not sure about Tesla, but I know that's a requirement. Data analyst, that's a big thing for data. So data analyst, AI, ML, these are very big thing now in security. So if you think that, oh, I'm going to be an AI, there's no role for me in security, you'll be surprised. Even visualization, there's so many ways to visualize threats and that. This for security is very different, right? For example, if you graph a ping, the ping package, then you go ping a machine. Hey, are you alive? Are you alive? By ping into like not spider graph, but more like a circular type, like a pie chart, and you can very quickly identify whether it's a ping of death or whether you have an intruder trying to do a scanning. So just by visualizing it right away, the characteristic, you know what's happening without actually looking at the event log. So that's the power of this type of data analyst and business intelligence and so on. And don't underestimate technical writer. So all this has to be documented. People pay you because of the document that you write, and what they write and how they produce significant help. And a lot of these people are English major and they know their stuff. They can help auditor. They help you strengthening by rewording. Sometimes just by doing help you with the language, and that will actually manipulate your idea, and that may even help strengthen, harden what you're trying to think. Okay, I do work with a lot of really technical writer. I work with all of these people. They are really, really. You cannot leave one of them out. Okay, technician. Some people say technician. Oh, I do know. Whenever I give a talk at university, they told me that. Oh yeah, we focus so much on graduate studies and all. Trust me, there's a lot of really useful stuff like do you know that there's a lot more technician right now out there than engineers. A lot of engineers don't touch the instrument. When people attack, attack the instrument. Who are the expert at the instrumentation? The technician. Those languages I told you about, we don't teach in engineering school. We teach them in technical school. So that's why we need a lot of technician. And technician is the only one right now, believe it or not, just late last year, I believe. No, today is April. Yeah, actually early this year in February, they are officially recognized, their diploma officially recognized by the Alberta government under the law as a security profession. IT security is not recognized right now. Engineering security is not recognized, but the technician security is officially recognized under the law in the province of Alberta. See what I mean? Right? And right now, I'm working on trying to get security and engineering and IT security to recognize. But if all goes well, within 2 years, if not, maybe a few more years. So that's the status right now. I'm working with the provincial government and the federal government, trying to see whether how we can do it. I also work with some association in the state. If this work, if we can regulate here, we can spread it to US and then Europe. And guess which country already has all of this before we do? Singapore, right? Singapore way ahead in terms of the regulatory governance and security. They are way ahead of us. Okay, we are still fighting, trying to get there. Singapore already applying it right now. So those are the kind of things. So as I mentioned, fire, EMS here, because those are, if you work in this area, you see a whole set of things that you don't see as working in individual sectors and so on. So when I was working there, I can tell you right now, if someone trying to hack a critical infrastructure, one phone call from federal level, it takes less than 15 minutes. You can get the phone call all the way to the person with the finger on the button to shut the thing down. Okay, so what I'm trying to say, that is possible, but unfortunately, not all infrastructure do that. But in the States, they do have regulation that say that if something happen, you must be able to shut down the pipeline, say less than 15 minutes. That's why you see operator. They also have operator and engineer and the supervisor in on on staff all the time, because sometimes they have regulation legislation that they have to do that, have to report that, make a decision, shut down or keep it running in within 15 minutes. So there's a lot of very tight deadline that security have to be able to provide solution in. Okay. Now we talk about hundreds of kilometers, thousands of kilometers. You need to get signal back and forth. How do you secure those kind of line, right? Especially when you own them, right? Or sometimes you don't own them. How are you going to do that? PMBA, a lot of IT now, they knows that you cannot just take any IT project, secure project, and let anyone manage it, right? You want to make sure the project manager, the business analyst actually secure, actually know this area. They've been clear with high level reliability that we can do the job. So if you don't like the technical stuff, but you have the knowledge, you can become project manager, business analyst too, right? There are a lot of companies are looking for them. Unfortunately, not many, because security project is not like oil and gas project that billion of dollars. So they are slightly much smaller scale, even smaller than IT, but they do have that role. So if you work for a company that has this opportunity, take it, right? So you get to do architecture, you get to do testing, you get to do planning, you get to do budgeting, risk management, communication, stakeholder management. You have to engage people. That include public, like for example, RCMP, public, internal, different department, logistic, chain, make sure things arrive securely, can come in securely, and so on. Keep in mind, when you work for oil and gas, sometimes you have asset that is million and million of dollars. You cannot have them all sitting in this area here for free, right? Put it on site, because it's real estate rental costs a lot of money. You want to see it right by the border, especially when it's critical. You need certain security clearance like ITAR and all that kind of stuff, special stuff. You want to sit it by the near the border, so that when there's emergency, it's all pretty clear, and then the thing will come in and then you install it, right? So it will be cost effective, efficient, and highly effective to keep society safe and secure from a security perspective. PRO, that's the one I talk about, provincial regulatory, professional regulatory organization. These are things like I'm trying to get security in there. Right now, the technician is actually part of that, indirectly connected to that. Right now, actually connected to that, actually regulated by law. Engineers and IT security has not. The reason I mentioned engineer security, because there's another section in the legislation in Alberta that only engineers can do. So I try to get that and IT security to work together and get them registered as one. And finally, talk about standards. So this is Standard Council of Canada and Canadian Standard Association. So CSA is more internal facing, SEC is more external facing. So I'm just so happy that finally, when I just at the tail end of it, just before they got everything going, I got out of it, and I was working on another security area, but I'm so glad one of my professional colleague too in Calgary, a Calgarian, happened to be on the committee, but in another area, managed to take all the critical infrastructure security standard, make it associated with safety security standard, and he managed to bring a lot of them into Canada now. So it's officially recognized by CSA right now. So now all I'm waiting for is to find a business case to get to deploy all of that, because those standards are used by all critical infrastructure, especially the people who built them, like engineers around the world. We all reference those standards. So now we are getting very, very close. When this starts to go out, then we need a lot more people, because then it'll be regulated uh, standard that we need to adhere. So this is the whole area, like all this area under industrial, critical infrastructure, and military. Military also follows some of this, okay, because they do have critical stuff too, like nuclear. They do have power generation. Military have their own stuff too, so they also follow some of these standards. Okay, they still also have to follow this stuff, because Canada is Canada, right? When they say this industry is regulated, military build those generation, have those power, they still have to adhere to them. So as you can see, this is a really exciting world. I'm hoping that this open up your eyes to the wonder that there's possible out there. Yeah, so that's all I have. So if you have any question, yeah, feel free to ask. Yeah, here's my LinkedIn profile. If you want, I'm more than happy to take any if you want to contact. So
All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Vincent, for a wonderful presentation on your experience and wisdom in the domain of cybersecurity. It was really, really cool.
so is there any questions?
Are you getting questions in your Slido?
No. Hold on, let me see first. I don't know. I only have one person. They say, what's the difference between IT technology, IT risk, and information security? And then is IT technology risk more on the IT audit side? Thanks. So now the whole world right now is following something called ISO 31000. That is internationally recognized risk management. So it's very much objective based. Okay. So if you look at a lot of your executive risk appetite, policy, governance, you see that maybe in the footnote they actually reference that, because that's what everyone is doing. Even internal world internal auditor and all that following that. Objective based is saying that here's a risk, and your ability to go is something going to hinder your ability to achieve that objective. So that's a threat. If something that's going to help you to enhance your ability to achieve that objective more efficiently, better, faster, then that's an opportunity. So a lot of people are following that method. So what's the difference between IT technology risk and information security? There is no difference. Okay. So when we look at a value asset, so if you look at information asset, then from there you determine if there's a value. What is the value? Most people don't do that calculation. You have to do that calculation if there's a value. What's the value level, and determine the risk. If the control to protect that asset based on certain value, if the control is higher cost than the asset, don't protect it. Don't put a firewall there, right? So that has not changed. That is still the same. So that methodology of risk management applied to everything, applied to IT, applied to military, applied to industrial. Now, the only thing I can tell you that's actually different, having worked in all of them, is the definition of the item. Okay, the mathematics is the same. The only difference is that IT based a lot on requirement, when the industrial based a lot on specification. Because of that definition, that is why a lot of company was issue uh, email that said we're gonna take your server down for 3 hours, because they actually officially tell you that is what we're gonna do. That's not classified failure. The business is still running. It's not a failure. When you try to tell the water plant and say that I'm going to shut off the pump, you're not going to get water for the next 3 hours. Try to do that with the public. You probably will not be a happy camper. So, okay. So technically, they're all the same. The testing for it, whether it's compliant. In Canada, compliance is more legislated. Conformance is more standard and regulatory. It's still the same method. It's still scientific method, technically speaking. So one language should I opt a student of cybersecurity? Which software language are most popular? What should I opt for as a student for cybersecurity program? Okay. Now I'll tell you this. Okay. I've been a software engineer. Yes, my first love is software engineering. I love programming. I done a lot of languages. I think I actually led and project managed over 40, 41 or 40, I think 43 languages, programming language out there in industrial. So I'll tell you right now, pick I know it sounds like going back to theory, but it's true. Pick the language for that particular mission that you're going to do, that particular area that you're going to practice in, whatever that is. It will change. Okay, if they changes, you adapt. You be robust. You be agile, and that's what make you good. That what will make you an expert. Don't get hung up on one language. I never get hung up on any languages. I'll do any languages. Like for example, I built a system. They have a piece of system that's over 30 years old. We still have to use it, and we have no choice because there's still some another 10 years life cycle left. And it's Fortran 6077, and you have to EEPROM, you have to flash it, and then every time you do, you have to flash with ultralight to ultraviolet or something to erase it. EEPROM, and we do that. If that's what they need to keep the asset for another 10 years, I'll do that. Then I write C, and then interface I use Lips, and then the UI I use C++, whatever it takes to get a job done. Okay, so more efficient because that's the domain that they are familiar with. That's the language that they use, and I'll just accommodate that. Okay, so don't get hung up on what's popular. So you want to know what is the right language, fit for purpose and fit for use. Those two, fit for purpose, fit for use, is equivalent to fit for utilities and fit for warranties. Okay. Okay. Any other question? That's all I have here.
We have one in the chat.
Yeah.
Someone asked, I'm a computer science student and I want to get into cybersecurity. What should I do? I feel like it's a little general. I'm pretty sure this person's asking, like, hey, how do I best prepare myself to get into the cybersecurity field currently, right now, as a student?
Yeah. Right now, the best is, you have your own livelihood, right? You have your own quality of life that you want. Okay, why am I saying that? Because I help a lot of people depending on what they want out of life. So you can get all the way to, in Alberta, we have the vocational training, we have the colleges, and we also have the university. So whatever that's right for you right now, do those. Okay, um, and then from there I can advise you on where you want to go, right? So obviously certain area is more difficult to get in without the proper destination. For example, when I talk to the military, they say that minimum you need security plus before they even look at your resume whether you can get in. So then I recommend you go get security plus destination so that when you go apply for a job, entry level job at military, that will put your name, your resume on top of the stack. Okay. Right now, I am working with Canadian Center, what that Canadian Center for Canadian Centers Cybersecurity for Canadian Center or something like that, CCCS or something. So I'm working with them right now. Some of them indirectly, not directly. I cannot go into details. Trying to see whether we can have a regulate, make it a standardized way, so that we can actually get exactly what the challenge that you are facing right now is. To have a standardized accredited program for everyone. Right now, all university, colleges, training center, there is no standardization. I'm not saying academia doesn't talk to each other; they do, but at the end of the day, it's still a little bit not consistent. That is why they told me, Vincent, it's still very hard for us to hire anyone with the right background to go in. That's nobody's fault. It's just a matter of time before we can consolidate. Right now, we're talking to all the deans in engineering and computer scientists. I know there have been communication going on right now, trying to standardize that so that when we graduate cyber expert, security expert out of our Canadians. Education program, we know they are of high caliber, we know their level, we know their capability, and we can leverage them to protect Canadians. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer right now because we are still working on that. So I'm going to have a meeting with them, I think, in 2 weeks to discuss how Alberta can help them and how they can help Alberta. So,
Okay, cool. I had one question for you, actually, Vincent, if
yeah.
that's so. You mentioned at the very beginning or near the beginning that you didn't have like a guide or a mentor to tell you like, hey, you should do this certificate. Hey, you should put yourself out here. You should do this early. That way you can set yourself up for success after graduating, right?
Mhm.
So what exactly did you do to best prepare yourself when you were a new grad? Because you mentioned you were in software engineering and then now you're doing so many different projects. Like, how did you deal with the adversity of
Okay.
finding your first job?
I'll tell you my background a little bit. Okay, just very high level. Don't have too much time. So I started out as a software, and then one of my friends asked me to help in the health industry, right? Because they want me to help with availability. That's how I got into helping with the ICU, helping all the standards, more focusing on availability and business continuity, which is also part of security, right? Then from there, because I do all of that, I'm able to help a couple of companies to move with hardly any documentation and all that. Uh, then I end up then and also I had to become an engineer, so I need to practice engineering for at least a year or so. So I work for a control system company because I have a lot of friends there, so they recommend me in, and then I work with control system company. So I do a lot of telemetry. So I send signal from Calgary, I send a signal to Australia, say can I do this, and then they approve it. Then the signal got bounced through satellite all the way to California, and then they open the gate and things like that. So I do global telemetry, satellite, micro links, laser links, all that stuff. Because so I have background in electrical engineering because of my multiple degrees in electrical degree, software engineering degree, computer science degree, all that stuff. The military hire me, and those sectors hire me because they say I want someone who knows hardware and software to do real-time system. I asked them, I said, I said, what do you mean by real time? I say that when like those javelin and things like that, when they try to shoot a tank, like I want your system to detect the thing first, blow it out of the sky before it touches the vehicle. So that's how real-time system they want. So they want me to be able to integrate hardware software system and help them with some of the global telemetry which I have with that. So yeah, so that's how I got into it. Then because of that background, the city of Calgary wanted me to do because I actually learned how to do maturity. That military needs something at maturity level 5. I helped them to achieve maturity level 5, and then city of Calgary, when I left there, when the project program got run down, then the city of Calgary asked me to say, hey, can you help us with a technology control system, because they want someone with experience with IT technology and control system. So I helped them with that. Actually, they built a new wastewater treatment plant. So they want me to recommend the technology in there. So basically, I recommend the technology that goes in there. And then just so happened at that time, RCMP, it was their mandate to protect critical infrastructure. Well, public safety has always done that, but also the RCMP got involved. They keep changing, okay, to different agency. But at that time was RCMP. So RCMP asked the city of Calgary, do you know anyone who knows how to secure this thing? So the closest person was me. So they invited me to head office, RCMP head office, to provide a talk on the current state of security situation in Calgary and Western Canada, or what I think in general. So I went and told them what it is. So I come back to Calgary. So every now and then I get police, I get sheriff, I got RCMP who come and visit me and ask me to show them around, show them how all the different critical infrastructure, how to penetrate them, how to steal the plan, how to take things down so that they know where to protect. So that's how my security got started. Then I really got excited in security, and I did something that I don't recommend people to do. I went and took an entry-level security job. I'm not kidding you. I went to as low as possible. Someone just asked me, "Do you teach pen testing?" That's when I first do security from the ground up, like this. So I can tell you guys, I've been there, done that. That's what I did. So I do pen testing, I do scanning, I do all kind of stuff, hacking. Because of my engineering, they asked me to. I actually had to review all project around the world. Okay, I mean whatever this company had project around the world, it has to go through my desk to review them for security. For example, I think they have a place in the Middle East somewhere. And I had to consolidate all the building together and make sure they are remote login from another friendly country. And just in case the terrorists come and attack the whole building. And just so happened, once we consolidate everything, got the technology working, the terrorists did come and attack the whole building, but luckily everything is remote, so we don't have any information assets there. So that's how I got in. And then they asked me to manage global conformance project because I also have project management background. So they asked me to manage global security compliance project. So I managed that's compliance, like whether it's credit card, whether it's SWIFT, the one that we stop. The SWIFT, the money transaction. So I'm familiar with all those security. So I managed those. So that's kind of my background, how I went through. So that's why no one told me that. I kind of stumbled into all of that. Someone asked in the question, do I teach pen testing? I will say that I used to teach for 5 years. So I teach the forensic. I teach how to hack network, Wi-Fi, server, website, database. I don't do that anymore. I don't call it pen testing, because those days, like 30, 20, 25 years ago, we call it reverse engineering, right? I mean, I get a box. A company will have a box that's 30, 40 years old. They don't know how to make it work again, or it was working, but we don't know how to change the interface. I just get a box. And so a whole bunch of engineers, we just take 1 month, we can reverse engineer the whole thing. So it's like testing the thing from a piece of wire all the way up to creating a display of the signal, right? So from that perspective, if you have engineering background, even a technician background, electronic background, for you to go into pen testing, for you to go into information security, is relatively easy, because what you call engineering or technician design is actually what we call pen testing here, right? So, I mean, like, I look at signal from noise all the way into signal. Then from there, I have to digitize it into 0 and 1. Then I have to figure out if it's even TCP/IP. If it's not TCP/IP, I cannot use IT technology. I have to use different set of tools to do that. So in the industrial, right, we got a lot of things that is not TCP/IP. So we have to also do pen testing. We also have to do all the security stuff without TCP/IP. They don't even have UDP there, right? So it's on the completely different type of protocol. They even have hybrid protocol that have digital modulated over analog. So they also have this hybrid protocol that you have to do. So it's partial analog, partial digital. So those kind of tools are even more specialized tools you use to secure those systems and pen test those systems that IT Kali will never ever work, because there is no such tool in Kali to do it, right? Or Burp Suite and all that kind of stuff. Which best field is best testing for beginner? Personally, I think any field that's of interest. The best field, if you want to be really good, you ask me personally, if I have a choice, I'll say mathematics, right? Be a mathematician. Because there's many times I run into a roadblock, I ask mathematician, right? They can tell you the optimum way, they can tell you the strength of the algorithm, they tell you the power and all that. Implementation, I can do that, but inside of the algorithm, I'm not an expert in it. I know my weaknesses. I get mathematician. Sometimes you look at into the logic of the protocol, I get English major. So they know how to break down languages, although it's computer language, but sometimes they think outside the box, right? So you need to get those people expert in language. They can tell you all the protocol. So a lot of time I deal with over 40 industrial protocol that I've never seen before. It's not TCP/IP again. All the stack are collapsed. We learn OSI 7 layer. We have 8 layer. We have 9 layers in some of these protocol. We have layers that IT will never see. There's no such tools to test it. So I have to build those tools from scratch. So that's what I meant by do what you love, pick the courses that you like, and then if you want to go into security, maybe I'm more than happy to chat, contact me, and then I'll see whether I can guide you how to go into that. Let's say even if you like music, right? Then I can show you how your knowledge of signal and sound can use that to leverage use that in security, right? So a lot of time I deal with signals in security, wireless, electromagnetic, and all that kind of stuff. So knowing the signal, certain things like harmonics and stuff, actually come in handy. The original design for the field bus, there's a harmonic component to it. It wasn't in the handbook design. So when we first applied, the whole system keep crashing down. We couldn't figure it out. Then we realized there's a harmonics interference bounce back on the line. Then that destroyed the availability of the system really fast. So that's also part of security, because security in charge of availability, right? So those also part of security job too, right? Which of the Canadian intelligence, military, security defense you can recommend where you can apply for career? Yeah, so I tell you right now, all of them need cybersecurity, right? RCMP is big. Uh, Cybersecurity Canada, Center for Cybersecurity, they really want to hire. The people I know in there say, Vincent, I really want to hire if you know anyone who got those security background. But if you want to do that, I think you can almost guarantee to get into those positions if you have like the CSSP plus some of the specialization, the architecture, the I think management and the engineering. They got three sub standardization. If you get those things, you are almost definitely can get in there, because that's what they are looking for. They told me, right? So that's what I get. I'm not trying to sell you. I'm just telling you I partner with those vendor because I know what they want. I'm trying to get students to go in. You can go get those destination anywhere. Okay, just telling you that's what they want. Those of you who love pen testing, especially this group here, I think I talked to some of your executives. If you get OSCP, you can get in. Not too bad. Okay, if you get the next level up, OSCE or something, or OSEE, if you get the two highest, you can almost pick the job that you want. Almost all the consulting firms, security firm will definitely, you get to pick. They all want you. Okay, if you get the first two level pen testing destination from those, I think they are called offensive defense. I know a lot of you guys here are into pen testing. Yeah, you get those two, you can almost decide where you want to go. So you have to work for the consulting in order to make your life exciting. I'll tell you right now, we hire a lot of pen tester for owner operator, like company that own the pipeline, own the transmission line. Your job is very boring. Okay, I'm telling you right now, because the first thing you need to scan. Most of our systems are highly secured, defense in depth, up the yin yang everywhere. Just keep in mind that most of the time you scan nothing, nothing, nothing. You write a report that's full of nothing. Most of them will be very minor. And once a blue moon, you get something even critical, then you don't do pen test, you just patch it up. Okay, so I tell you the reality of it. If you want to become a pen test for an owner operator business, it's not as exciting as you think. You should go and work for consulting and work for service provider or the big four. They do a lot of compliance testing. I believe most of them, like PCI, Swift, and other stuff, they require you to do pen testing once or twice a year. So those are good job to get in, because then you will be doing all this exciting pen testing, because there's a regulatory requirement. So the hint is that if you want to have a longevity in cybersecurity, work for a company that has a lot of compliance requirement. Okay, then they have no choice, because that is a requirement to operate. So without those compliance, they cannot operate their business. So you will always guarantee there's a job there for you. All right. And in terms of the military one, all of them wants you. Okay. The only places that the one that has a lot of I don't know whether should I give it out. If you really want to access to a lot of stuff, right? I just call it stuff. CSIS is probably the one that you want to go into. Okay. So if you want a lot of stuff, CSIS. So they all do. Like the Center for Cybersecurity, they hire a lot of people from everywhere: military, CSIS, RCMP, even outside school. They all hire a lot. But if you want a really exciting where you can almost say nothing about it, they may not even want other people to know that you joined them. That's probably CSIS. Okay. So sometimes they rather you not tell people that you apply for that job. If you are true security and say, hey, mom and dad, I just applied for CSIS. So try not to do that. Okay. So that to show you that you're professional. You know how the criticality of security. So you wouldn't tell everyone the whole world on LinkedIn. Guess what? I just got accepted to CSIS. No, you don't do that. Okay. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, you notice I don't have any job description there. I just everything you see there are all my volunteer stuff that I do for fun. Okay, that I really enjoy doing. Those are the things you find on LinkedIn. You'll never find any of my jobs, my customer on LinkedIn profile, because LinkedIn is one of the best social engineering tools. I can go there and search for system administrator for this company, and they'll list it out everyone who works there, and I can go social engineer. All right. Okay. Yeah, you guys have my email. Feel free to email me. Any other questions? That's all I have on my side. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Maybe just give it a sec. If there's no more questions, then that will conclude the speaker series today. I'm not getting any on my
That's
side.
fine. Yeah, it's long. It's late. Okay, I'd like to thank everyone. Those of you who have stayed this long with me. Like I say, I am. If you want, I'm always happy to have a chat, coffee or whatever, or just over the phone or over Zoom. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Thank you
And
for everyone who came out today.
let me just, if you guys are here, I just tell you one very quick story. Okay. I remember I was doing a pen testing course, and there was one of my students who cannot do and told me, oh, Vincent, I cannot do any. I was trying to offer him job. He said, I cannot do any job. I couldn't understand why. And my lab assistant said, oh, I can find some job for you. And then he went and said, okay, finally he caved in, and then he said, okay, I'll take the job. And then my friend did a open source background check and found that this person was wanted by Interpol for hacking. Okay. So apparently school doesn't do background check on people who take their courses, especially penetration testing. So yeah, I have one of the Interpol most wanted computer hacker in my class. I won't go into any more detail, but yeah, you never know where bad people is going to show up. So, all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Good
Thank you
night,
so much
everyone.
for coming out.